Hello everyone, I am Caner Taçoğlu from Industrial Engineering Department, and in this video we will be talking about poster and presentation preparation for your senior projects or FENG 497 and 498 classes. So you all know the senior project reports. You can all reach these reports from the website of the faculty. So the content for the senior project reports are given as this. So you have a title page, you have table of contents, abstract, introduction, literature review, methodology, results and discussions, or sometimes we can put discussion for number 6 here in a separate section if this is applicable, of course. Then have conclusion, references, and appendix. Okay, so this is for the reports. This is the outline for your reports. So let's talk about presentations this time. So how should it look like? Actually, if you look at the outline here, you will see that they are very similar with the reports, with your senior project reports. Okay, so first of all, you have to have a plan for the presentation. Okay. So the plan for presentation, you can include a section like, okay, in this presentation, we will be talking about the summary of the project, description, purpose, conclusion, and like that, okay? Then you should always have a description of the problem and purpose of the project, okay? Then if you have some contributions, these contributions might be literature contributions or managerial contributions. So you always have to have these three most important parts, okay? So please speak about these in the presentation. Your description of the problem, purpose of the project, and your contributions. Then you may start with, by the way, the outline may change. For example, you can start with the purpose. This is all your plan, okay? Just include them. Then a brief introduction and causes of the problem. Have a brief introduction for your project. Don't go too overboard. Then have a brief literature review. Again, your literature review is already in your projects. Okay? Longer and detailed version is already in your reports. So in the presentation, you don't have to have a too complicated or too detailed literature review. Okay, don't lose too much time here. Then methodology and problem solving tools. What methods have you used? What tools have you utilized? Then talk about your results. Then talk about your problems and obstacles encountered, or we can all say that limitations, okay, the limitations of your project. You can add, for example, future research too, okay? So after that, you can have an overall conclusion part. Okay, so this is, you don't have to just stick the plan like this here. Okay, your plan might be different, but overall, this is how your presentation look like. Okay, then for your reference section, don't forget that you have to start from A to Z and use a known format like APA or Harvard style or other popular formats of your choosing, okay? Or whatever the format your mentor would like you to use, okay? So let's talk about the presentation. So this is the outline of the project, of the presentation. So let's talk about some general rules of the presentation, and we will talk about what to do during the presentation and what to do while you are being asked for questions, okay? So let's talk about some general rules for the presentations. First of all, you should have a plan for the presentation. You should know how to start the presentation, for example. Are you going to do a, let's say, creative introduction, or are you going to start with, hello, my name is Jenner, and we will talk about this in this presentation. Okay, so you should know all the how you will start the presentation, how you will end the presentation, who will speak in what section of the presentation. So these are all the plans, okay? So stick with the plans, guys. Then your presentation slides should not include too much writing, okay? So there are some rules like 6 to 6, 5 to 5 rules. 5 sentences or 6 sentences for each slides, and goes on like that. Okay, so just research these rules. Okay, you shouldn't include too much writing. Okay, so that means don't copy paste from your reports. For example, in your senior project reports, don't copy paste the abstract into the presentation. Okay, it will be really hard to read all those information there. Okay. Then you have to make sure to control all the slides. Then do not overload your slides with too much information. Okay, we shouldn't have too much information in just one slide. Okay, so even though you are sticking to, for example, 6 to 6 plan and have 6 bullet points, these bullet points shouldn't include too much information inside themselves. Okay. Then your slide fonts should not be too small, too light, or too busy. What is too light? For example, if I stick a light blue tone to this presentation here, it would be unreadable. Or too busy, like there are different fonts, like they are too crowded and too busy. They are unreadable, okay? So they make the T like this, for example, which is unreadable with OO like this, for example. It's really hard to understand that this actually means two. Okay, so use fonts, non-fonts, okay, and make them normal, so seeable, visible, and they should be medium size. Okay. Then make sure to practice several times. So everyone who will be presenting the presentation should practice several times, not only one time. Okay, these are important general rules for you. Then you may use animations or videos, but keep them short. Okay, we don't want to watch the whole time animations or videos all the time. Okay, just keep them short and brief. You may use other software programs for your presentations, such as Keynote. I think this is for Apple, Visme, Prezi, or Google Slides. Okay, so you don't have to stick with Google, PowerPoint if you don't want. These other software programs are fine as well, but make sure they are working in your computers or in other school computers. Okay. Use visual materials such as photographs, sample materials of the company, the work being on. So these things actually raise the interest for your presentations, okay? Having sample materials from the company, for example, this would raise interest, okay? So these are important general rules. Tables, figures, and numbers should be readable. So don't put the table here, copy from the report from your, let's say, results page, and then paste it here. It would be too crowded and too small to read, right? So what you can do is actually have the most important parts of the results as table, let's say, and put them in a way that they will be readable, or have some separate pages for these figures, okay? And lastly, your presentations are generally 15 minutes and 5-minute question and answer. These may sometimes, like let's say plus or minus 1-2 minutes here, or sometimes plus 1-2 minutes here for the question and answers. These may vary, but still this is the general rule, let's say. Unless there will be any, let's say, further announcements for this case. These minutes might change. Okay, so keep updated for this rule here. During the presentation, most important thing during the presentation is do not read from the slides. This is very important, and sometimes we see the students do exactly this. Please don't do that for your university lives and for the professional lives as well. Don't read from the slides. Okay, this is a general rule for all kind of presentations. If you read from the slides, people will lose interest from from whatever you are giving the information on. Okay, so we don't want the audience to lose interest on your slides or presentation. So you shouldn't read from the slides. And you should form eye contact with the audience. Your posture is important. Use your time wisely. And we encourage for each project member to speak. Okay, so every member should be speaking. Every member should be, let's say, talking about the methodology, introduction. Of course, you can say, okay, one member will be talking about introduction. One member will be talking about the results. But generally, for those who are only presenting the introduction, for example, they should be speaking a little bit about somewhere for the methodology or the results as well, okay? So this is your plan as well. Then adjust your voice tone and speaking rate. Don't speak too fast or don't speak too slow, just adjust it. During the question phase, listen the question carefully, okay? Because generally you are being asked what you already know. Don't get too excited here, okay? And only answer what is being asked, okay? This is really important here as well. Then again, adjust your voice tone and speaking rate while you are answering the questions, okay? All right, so this was a general introduction for the presentation. Now let's talk about your posters. So research posters summarize information or research concisely and attractively to help publicize it and generate discussion. And the poster is usually a mixture of a brief text mixed with tables, graphs, pictures, and other presentation formats. Let's learn the poster properties. Important information should be readable. This is the general problem we are facing with the posters. Generally, we see the fonts or writings or text unreadable because they are too small. Okay, so they should be readable from a distance. Short and interesting title. Clear and to the point text. That means to the point text means so they shouldn't be too small, too light, too busy. They should be readable and they should summarize what has been done effectively. Okay, efficiently and effectively. Then you can use bullets, numbering, headlines, or you can use infographics as well. However, there are some debates among this usage of too much infographics might be like losing the interest for the audience again. So you can have some research about the usage of infographics. Sometimes they look really nice, I agree, but sometimes using too much of the infographics might not be so impactful on your posters, okay? So you should use the infographics if you are going to use effectively as well as using the graphics, your colors, and your fonts, okay? These should all be cleverly selected. You should have a consistent and clean layout. While preparing the poster, okay, so what information should you include in the poster? So what is the most important or interesting finding in your research project? Include this. How can you visually share your research with the audience? What kind of charts, graphs, photos, or images should you use? So these are all your own style of design, okay? Which information should you transfer from your project reports or your presentations? For example, you have already summarized some tables from your reports into the presentation. Okay, so these tables already look, let's say, nice, and they have the brief information of the results. So you can just put this information into the project poster. Okay, perhaps summarize it a bit more, or make this a bit more clean, let's say. So you can you can modify these. Okay, so you can actually transfer some information from your reports or presentations. This is doable. So let's have a look at a poorly designed poster sample. So what's the first thing you see here? We see too small and too much information. This is the real problem in this poster. Okay, so we have too much of information. These are really unreadable. The poster shouldn't look like this. And your graphs or tables, the numbers here should be always readable. Okay, these are unreadable and too small. Then let's look at the other things. Caption not aligned with the figure. Okay, so your figure, let's say, ends here, but your caption is like here. So this should look more professionally here. Okay, so you should be designing these accordingly. And let's say, for example, posters rarely need abstracts. You don't have to put this much of information here for abstracts. So this is a typical of copy and paste abstract from the report to here. Okay, so don't do these things. Let's have a look at a traditional poster sample. You have the background or intro, let's say introduction here, research questions, your data collection, your results. So these are relatively readable, and your conclusion. And that's a traditional poster sample. Another one from Georgia Institute of Technology. I can argue some of the aspects in this poster. For example, should we really include abstract here, or should we include references in the poster? I am not so sure. Okay, so you have better information to put here rather than references or abstracts. So introduction is okay, hypothesis okay, methods is okay. For results page, are we really understanding here? So there are some mathematical expressions, but can everyone understand these expressions? Okay, so these might look a bit complicated. So your design should be clean and understandable and brief. Okay, so instead of putting all these mathematical expressions, you can just have a let's say simpler versions of the results, which are more readable. Okay, so I would argue these results as well here. Let's have a look at a modern poster sample, which no one ever have done yet for the faculty. I'm not saying this is how you should do your posters, okay? This is highly arguable as well, okay? If this is really what people need or not, okay? However, some of the posters are beginning to be presented in this way. For example, we have the introduction, methods, and conclusion, and your finding is, for example, item level analysis improved the predictive accuracy of an existing situational judgment test. So convert this finding to a more, let's say, engineering way. Item level analysis improved the productivity of a, let's say, production line by 2%, let's say, okay? And all the details are given here, if you're interested in this, okay? So the information given here is really enough. Perhaps you can add more infographics here too. Your main finding is here, and all the other details like the references, abstract, or any other thing you wish to add are here for those who are really interested and in your topic, okay? So this is a really nice modern poster sample, but yes, this is arguable. Please before, for example, having to decide to design this kind of poster, please speak with your mentors, okay? I have some useful links here for you. So for posters from universities like New York University, Birmingham, York University, Toronto, and Sussex. So these all universities have their guidelines for the posters and presentations. So you can just have a look at from these links and understand these better. I hope this was brief and introductory resource for you to how to design your presentations and posters. If you have any further questions about your poster and presentation preparation, you can just mail me and reach me out. Okay, I wish you success for this academic year and see you. Take care.